Hello and welcome to another update video about Ethereum. We can currently see Ethereum decline further. That is now expected given the drop below 1130. We talked about that in the previous videos, in both today. Yeah, the drop below 1130 made Ethereum extremely vulnerable, and not without reason. I gave you this support area and told you on Friday that on the weekend we're most likely going to see a decision, and that a lower wave C, it was at the time, was expected here, and that as soon as we hit 1130 we're going to see a decision, which happened. Yeah, we saw that decision. Finally we have some clarity, and the clarity is that we are going further down. And as always, you know, there's not just one scenario, there are at least two. And by the way, you know, it's always funny to see you know, some people who think there would be anything close to certainty in these markets, because a lot of people seem to think it is a weakness, or not a lot. There's a few exceptions, right? Seem to think that having more than one scenario is a weakness in a technical analysis. That is by far the wrong view, absolutely, because there is no certainty in these markets, and in the end it is the market and the market participants that decide where the market is moving. Of course, with Fib levels, support, resistance, technical analysis, you can identify pivot points, decision points. Yeah, and that is what you can do. You can identify those decision points, and you can say, as long as, for example, such and such is in place, we are doing whatever, X, Y, Z, right? But as soon as this level breaks, then we are moving from one scenario into the other. And that is an absolute strength, especially of the Elliott Wave method, because you can define clear scenarios. And if I was here just to give you one particular scenario, you would be completely screwed if the market does something different. And the market does things differently. That's, you know, of course, normal. Hope you understand that it shouldn't be a surprise that the market does, of course, follow likely scenarios pretty frequently, but it does also do unlikely things regularly. And if it does something unlikely, then it could be that it is just following the alternative scenario. And please bear in mind, there is theoretically an infinite number of possible price actions possible. The market can do whatever it wants. It is a skill to identify the 2 or 3 most likely scenarios. And sometimes, and that's what it was here, we had a pretty equal probability or similar probability between it is going to break down and go to 1130 and below, or it will rally. Now the market decided to follow the lower path, and it is now not going to be very likely anymore that we are in. I took it off the chart anyway, this 1-2 setup that we had on the chart, which, however, if you've been watching the videos, I said many times, it is not the most reliable possible 1-2 setup, because the waves to the upside here were only 3 waves, and you can count it with 5, but it's basically a so-called truncated wave pattern if you count 5, which means the 5th wave was just lower than the 3rd, which makes it very unreliable. But it was still a good pattern, yeah. But now we are breaking down, and I can really only, I mean, I can show you that pattern again, and it's still technically possible. It's not invalidated as per the Elliott Wave rules. It was this, a wave 1 to the upside, and a wave 2 here to the downside, then a 3 up, a 4 down, and a 5 up, and so on. This wave 2 could still bounce from here and rally. But the problem is we've come down too far to make it likely, therefore I took it off the chart. Nevertheless, a bounce is soon expected, because we are hitting channel support, as you can see. The scenario I've got on the chart here now is the scenario where, well, that I believe we are following now, that we're making here one more low. But it is the scenario that would allow us to hold the $1,000 level. So you can see roughly the path. I did post that a few hours ago on Telegram and Discord. It's following it nicely at the moment. And what we would expect here, as soon as it hits channel support, I would expect some kind of a bounce in a wave 4. That should be a shallow bounce before we then come down in a 5th wave of 5, of maybe 2. Yeah, because it can still, believe it or not, Ethereum can still be in an overall bullish scenario. And I think that might confuse a few people. But if it was simple, then, you know, everybody could do it. No, it's hard to understand, especially at the moment. The market is extremely complicated. I know that, and it frustrates me as well, because it's an extremely difficult market situation in which we are. Obviously, we have some fundamental events that are currently distorting our waves here, and there is basically the scenario is still that if Ethereum holds the $1,000 level, it can still move up in this ominous wave 3 that could take us to $3,000. This scenario isn't dead, but it will basically die below $1,000. Now we're still $100 away from it, and the view is now we are going lower, yeah, and that has been the primary expectation, as I made you aware. As soon as we broke below 1130, the view was we are going down lower, but the next decision point for the market is the $1,000 level. And there is a good chance to bounce from here, even if it is not a bounce that will take us to $3,000. Yeah, but I would personally expect, in any case, a bounce, even if it is just a corrective bounce that might just simply, if you connect those highs here, now they don't really connect very well, but you could, for example, just assume maybe we'll find here some resistance if we move up, because you can identify some kind of a channel here still. So something like that, you've got some kind of a channel here, and if we bounce that, we could maybe reach the $1,400, $1,500 level. That is also why I still have two of my long positions open that are entered in the yellow support box. So I'm not gonna take them down until we really go below $1,000, and then I've got my stop losses set there anyway. But yeah, this is currently what I think it's going to follow at the moment. It is sort of in this channel. I take that triangle out because triangle is broken. But here I think we are following the channel. A good let's say, how do you say, a good indication that we are heading higher from here would be a break above this channel. So it makes the impression currently it's following a so-called ending diagonal here. In a 1, 2, 3, I wouldn't be surprised to hit the channel resistance on the way up, because we are pretty much oversold now on the 4-hour chart as well. So I would expect a bounce. I mean, maybe this could take a while, right? We could go up in 4, then come down in 5, find support at $1,000, and that would be the next decision point. That just is the next decision point. There is some more support at 1075, but again, you can see how nicely that would fit together. 1075 is the previous low. As long as that is in place, theoretically, a so-called 1-2 setup is still valid, and we could still move up from here. I would only believe that if we really rally impulsively above the channel resistance. Until then, my focus is now on lower, of course, with an expected bounce here in a wave 4, and maybe even an expected very strong bounce at $1,000. So this is sort of the key scenario at the moment for me. Again, the bullish scenario is still possible. It's now unlikely. At least the imminent bullish one is still is unlikely. The one where we where we hit $1,000 and will rally impulsively, that is still possible. I wouldn't rule that out. Yeah. And yeah, so this is where we are. And of course, there is also the scenario where we are breaking below $1,000. And this would be based on the assumption that let me just think. It would be that this was a 1, 2, I mean, there's different possibilities as well. But here a 3, a 4, and then a 5, but that the 5 is just a very long one and could hit the 650 level or maybe even lower. But we'll get to that as soon as we break the 1,000, which is absolutely possible. At the moment, I am still looking for a possible reversal back to the upside, at least a temporary one, because we are also on the daily now nearly oversold. So the downside potential is to a degree limited. Yeah, surely it can drop lower, but if it drops from here straight away to, let's say, 650, I would challenge that. I think it needs some kind of a recovery before we make that final dump. And that could be, again, a very, very long sideways movement, very boring again. But it's good to see that we finally see some movement here. You should have been warned since we dropped out of the 1130 level, and obviously the entire market is sort of dropping today, with Bitcoin again being below 16K as well. But also that was not really a surprise, not since we dropped below 16,100, which was the key support on the Bitcoin chart, right? So these levels are relevant, and if they drop or break, then you are following that downside scenario. So I'll keep you updated, make you aware when things change. So hopefully you liked the update. If you did, please hit the like button, leave a comment and subscribe. And if you really like the content, then please check out the channel membership. Thanks a lot for watching. Bye-bye.